As just said, next up is Tracy Ryan. Tracy is the Applied Research Coordinator at OSCIA. She has over 35 years of experience working with producers, community groups, organizations, and different levels of government developing and delivering agricultural stewardship programs and outreach activities. Tracy has a Bachelor of Environmental Studies from the University of Waterloo and is a graduate degree in Rural Extension Studies from the University of Guelph. Welcome, Tracy.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I'm glad a few others have had technical difficulties. So let's hope. Are you able to see that?
We can see it and hear you.
Okay, hopefully we can get it to full screen. How's that?
That's good.
Excellent. Wow, after a year and a half of whatever of Zoom, finally getting it. Thanks so much for inviting me. You've had an excellent lineup today. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Living Lab Ontario project. And I'm really here speaking on behalf of a number of organizations and individuals who are involved in this project. So let's move along. The Living Laboratories initiative is an agriculture and agri-food Canada initiative that was launched in 2018, and the first projects I think started in 2019. Our Living Lab project began in 2019, 2020, but really got underway last year. We were very late getting our contribution agreement together, signed and so on. But anyways, it is a 3-year project. So there are other Living Lab in Canada, and through Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada's new research or new initiatives, many of their projects moving forward will be this integrated approach to agricultural innovation, bringing together farmers, scientists, and other partners to co-develop, and I'll talk about that, test and monitor new practices. Probably what's most interesting about a Living Lab is that it really isn't a research project, it's an innovation project that's supported by research. So that's a real key. It is this multidisciplinary approach to looking at solutions and innovations. It's got 3 core principles. Every Living Lab that will be put on the landscape will be include these things. It's user-centered, and the user in our case right now is producers, but it could be agribusiness, it could be any variety of things, but activities focused on the user's needs and that the users are involved throughout the process. It's also, as I said, working in partnership, and the point is that these innovations are being tested on farms in the real world. So they're not test plots, and they are engaged at that larger level. It is a collaboration, and you'll see OSCIA's logo is in the center because we're leading the collaboration of partners who are involved in this project, and that's Ontario Soil Network, Innovative Farmers of Ontario, Ecological Farmers of Ontario, Essex Region, Upper Thames, and Lower Thames. And of course, the researchers that are engaged come from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and Environment and Climate Change Canada. So we're bringing together all of those groups. So we basically have an internal lead and an external lead. So the external is this consortium of partners. The internal is from the federal government. We're centered on solutions. As I said, that concept of being focused on the innovation. In our Living Lab case, we are looking at soil and water quality, just as we've described all day today, being interrelated and part of the agricultural sustainability. And these 4 priorities were identified with all of those partners together. So soil quality, watershed impacts, or watershed management, and biodiversity, which today has been great to see so many presentations knitting all of these things together. So we're focused in Ontario on maintaining continuous cover and reduce tillage. And most of our projects do look at that continuous cover approach. Again, many people are brought together. You'll see the center of this being the innovation. We have agronomists involved. Each of the organizations, IFAO and EFAO, have a research coordinator who serves their cooperators who are engaged. We've got the farmers, we have policy specialists, scientists, economists, extension specialists, and we're bringing in people from elsewhere, not just agriculture and agri-food. We've engaged specialists from OMAFRA and other parts of North America to co-develop some of these. I want to introduce you to our cooperators. Many of them you may already know. Brett Israel from EFAO and Greg Vermeersch, who is an IFAO member, are both looking at that relay, double cropping, small grains and soybeans. And so they are looking at how to make that system work and to make changes and co-developing along the way. Woody Van Arkel, well known to many, he was in one of the Cooking with Cover Crops video. He's looking at perennial covers in field crops, and Woody is one of those people growing green, and subterranean clover, I believe, has what he's been using, and again, seeking a lot of input on how to make this system work in this climate and with these cropping systems. Mike Groot, who is near Crediton, farms near Crediton, he's looking at perennial grazing. Started off with cover crop grazing and in crazy strips, corn soy rotation. And now he's actually moved to extending the rotation as part of this co-development approach, so that he's got grazing strips that are going to be 3 years long in his crazy strip system. So again, a little bit of a different approach. Ken Lang is looking at minimum tillage or no-till vegetables. Specifically, he started off with, I think, 20 different vegetables that he was looking at, different plots, and now he's got it down to looking at it in garlic and potatoes. And he's had some really good success with planting into standing cover and not having any weeding or anything like that. So reducing some of those labor aspects, and he's been quite pleased. Henry Denader is also an on-farm farmer, as is Brett Israel, but Henry is looking at cropping systems to reduce water quality impacts. And as Henry will say over and over again, it's all about, the water. You get if we can control that, the impact on the water, then he figures it's a success, along with making a living and having a sustainable farm. We're focused in the Lake Erie Basin as where this is going on, the research, the innovations, and one of the things that is also being looked at are the paired watersheds. So that's where the information that's being collected by the conservation authorities is coming into play, so that these innovations, we're seeing some of the socioeconomic impacts. So there's some data on a watershed basis being collected on land use and cropping practices and cost benefit analysis being done. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to try to knit together the story on these innovations. The Living Lab turns the farm into the research station, and in Henry's case, the edge of field monitoring sites, he's got Environment Canada, Environment and Climate Change Canada coming out to these sites, scientists from AAFC and from the local conservation authority. Of course, Henry also has some of these monitoring sites located that are part of on-farm, and entertains a lot of researchers on his site, as do the other innovators. Again, there are There is research being conducted by the AAFC researchers and environment and climate change researchers, and they basically are under different objectives. So one of the things is evaluating the on-farm trials. So they're looking at nutrient use efficiencies and soil erosion, soil invertebrate biodiversity, soil microbial diversity and function, surface water runoff, and tile water quality. And you can see that there's quite a bit of horsepower being put to this study. There's socioeconomic work going on to look at on-farm cost benefit and risk analysis on each of these individual innovations. They're examining the barriers and incentives for BMP adoption at the farm scale and at the wider scale, at the regional scale. There was a survey that Ontario Soil Network had out last year. I think the survey closed in December, and working with AAFC economists, socioeconomists, looking at barriers to adoption. And of course, they're assessing some of those public-private, which we've been hearing about today as well, benefits of BMP adoption. So there's a team looking at that from AAFC. Watershed management includes, again, support from the conservation authorities, AAFC researchers, and environment and climate change researchers, and they're looking at it from a soil, landscape, and habitat characterization. There's a study going on looking at the sensing of green cover in tillage and agricultural fields, trying to get more data and to refine that process so that it can be used more broadly. Watershed nutrient and carbon cycling, as well as enhanced modeling to detect the effects of BMPs. And there's aquatic microbial invertebrate and fish biodiversity and stream assessments going on. So it's, we have been constrained by COVID because a lot of scientists were kept out of the field for quite some time last year, and many of the labs have been closed. So they are trying very hard to crunch the data for the information that they have been able to collect to date. The whole point of Living Lab, I should say, many of us put an S on it, and that's not correct. It is a living lab, is this concept of collaboration. And we want to identify new opportunities for collaboration. The groups that you saw that are working together, we've all agreed we need to sing from the same songbook, so to speak, and to help each other become better at connecting with our wide and diverse audiences and different groups that we engage with. Innovation is an iterative process, and co-development involves getting a lot of different opinions, perspectives, and ideas together, and then really the farmer working with all of those inputs to refine what he's doing, and for then the researchers to capture and test and monitor. So it's collectively addressing the challenges that are facing agriculture, and with the outcome that we want to expand and share the knowledge and ideas that are being developed through this process. We are entering into our final year of 2022. The program will wrap up in March of 2023. So we are hoping that we will see some results. We encourage everyone to, this was just an introduction to that concept of co-development of a living lab on this focus on innovation. And if you want to learn more, you can visit any of the websites of the organizations, EFAO, OSN, or Innovative Farmers, or Ontario Soil and Crop. Many of them have promoting numerous things through social media as well. We have this interconference speaker series, with the next one being February 8th, which will focus on Mike Groot, grazing cover crops, and we will have a panel to discuss the benefits of adding cattle to a cropping system, and some of the challenges as well, and where this research might go. So feel free to join us in any of these. And we do have, they have been all recorded. So if you sign up, you should also get the recording if you've missed any of these. And that's it, Jess.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a really good overview. I know I'm sure you could spend a lot more time going into what each project is, but it's great to see that you've got farmers across Ontario that you're working with for this. If people are interested in maybe the January presentation or the December one, when they register, would they have access to those past ones, do you think?
I believe so. And if you don't, let me know if you go in and register. But I believe that that had been made possible. That when you can check those off, and Mel can send the or put you in touch with where to see the recording.
Great, thanks. And if you wouldn't mind just dropping the link for, you had a bit.ly
Yep. I will
address,
have
if you
to.
want to drop that in the chat, that way we can find more information. Does
Certainly.
anyone have any questions?